You're listening to The Hour of the Time, and I'm Pooh.
You're listening to The Hour of the Time,
I'm Doyle.
And I'm William Cooper.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, to the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, dear.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Allison.
Oh, cool.
Thank you, Doyle.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Daddy.
Okay, we'll see you guys later.
Okay, bye.
Nara,
Bye.
don't forget, you got to eat all your beans, okay?
All right.
Okay, guys.
I'm eating my cookies.
All right, we'll see you in just a little bit. Well, good evening, folks. It's day number 2 on our new station, WBCQ, Monticello, Maine. I guess it's Monticello, Maine, isn't it?
I would think so, yeah.
USA. And Doyle and I are going to be with you for 3 hours again tonight. And we've got a fantastic program for you here. We're going to be talking about the Declaration of Independence, the men who wrote it, the men who risked their lives to implement it, and the men who suffered because of all of these actions. Sometime during the last hour of the broadcast, we're going to open the phone, so you might want to jot down the phone number. It won't do you any good to call until I tell you the phones are open, because we will not answer the phone. The number is 520-333-4578. So later during the last hour of the broadcast, or whenever we get around to it, we will open the phone for anybody who wants to call and comment or talk or whatever you want to. I don't care what you talk about, whatever it is. So the number is 520-333-4578. One more time, 520-333-4578. That's also the number that you need to call during the day sometime to find out about shipping costs on some of the merchandise that we offer. I can tell you right now that some of it, you absolutely have to call us, and we have to fax your location off to the drop shipper to find the shipping cost. And so we'll work with you on that and make sure that it's the lowest cost that we can possibly get for you. We also, folks, for those of you, where is it? There it is. We've also, for those of you who may be experiencing a little problem receiving the shortwave signal, I don't care where you're at, in shortwave, it's not the cost of the radio that counts. In fact, a $10 radio will perform just as well as a $5,000 radio if you have the right antenna. Mm-hmm. With most radios, that's always going to be true. The deciding factor in shortwave, folks, is always the antenna. Now, from the reception reports that we've been getting, what have we been getting, Doyle?
Well, some of them are, they got a scale of 1 to 7, and they're going 20.
Now, most of the people that we've heard from who have given us reception reports have told us that the signal of WBCQ is coming in like gangbusters everywhere. I mean, it's off the scale, which is just incredible. I've only had one report from somebody in, I believe it was Virginia, who said that he wasn't able to get the signal clear. I don't care where you're at. If you have the proper antenna with the strength of this signal, you're going to have no problems hearing this broadcast. So we've put together a little antenna, folks, and it is exactly, well, for those of you called Ramsey, and you're going to get your Ramsey catalog, it's the same thing that Ramsey has in their catalog that they're charging you $46 for. We put it together with the insulators and the copper wire and the lead-in, everything that you need, as a matter of fact, to hook up a top-of-the-line, really good long wire antenna to your radio, and we've got it here for $24.95, and that includes shipping. So that's postpaid. If you want to improve the reception of your radio, send us $24.95, and we'll send you this antenna kit, and you can put it together yourself in about, about maybe 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and have yourself a number one top-of-the-line antenna. Mm-hmm. And the best way to do it is arrange it as a dipole, and you can just tack it to the side of your house, or you can run it around under the eaves outside your house. You can do it any way you want to, folks. It's got a good set of instructions with it. It's got all the insulators and everything you need. So let me give you the address for that. It's Hour of the Time, 101.1 FM. That's in care of 101.1 FM. Post Office Box 940, Eagar, spelled E-A-G-A-R, Arizona, 85925. That's the Hour of the Time, in care of 101.1 FM. P.O. Box 940, Eagar, spelled E-A-G-A-R, Arizona, 85925. I want to thank all of you who have sent email and have called telling us that you really enjoyed the broadcast last night. I had so much email I couldn't believe it, and that you're looking forward to more programming of the Hour of the Time. I was particularly pleased to hear that there is not a state in this union, including other countries and other states outside of this union, that can't pick up this broadcast really clear. I've heard from people in Mexico. I've heard from people in Canada. I've heard from Hawaii. I've heard from a gentleman in Japan. I've heard from 3 people in England. And all of them were listening to the broadcast last night. They loved it and said that they had no problems receiving it. Now, I have no idea. They didn't tell me what radio they had or what kind of antenna they had, but this is just incredible because the strength of the signal is really strong. For those of you listening on 101.1 FM, if you want to, if you have a shortwave radio and would like to tune in the broadcast on worldwide shortwave on WBCQ, the frequency is 7.415 megahertz or 7415 kilohertz. I don't care how you want to express it. You just dial that in on your shortwave dial, and you'll get us loud and clear. If you are experiencing problems, send us $24.95, and we'll send you out an antenna kit really quick, and you'll be glad to get it. It is the same thing that Ramsey and others sell for up to $46. So, in concert with our promise to you, we are keeping the price lower than all of those other people. And I guess that's about it for that. Today, folks, tonight, I think I've already told you, we're going to talk about the Declaration of Independence. We're going to begin in the beginning. That's the best place to begin, is in the beginning. And I think a lot of you are going to learn a few things tonight, and I hope you learn something on every broadcast of the Hour of the Time, because that's our intention, is to teach you, to open your mind, to dispel the myths and the lies and the disinformation, the misinformation, the intentional warping of the mentality of the average American. You see, I don't believe in Republican and Democrat. I don't believe in black and white and yellow and Native American and Oriental and all of this baloney. We're all either Americans or we are not. And if you're an American, you must subscribe to certain principles and ideals of freedom, because that's what this country is all about. If you don't belong here. You don't belong here. There are other countries where you can go and be a socialist or a communist or a what else is there? A fascist, or a dictator, or you can have your own little theocracy for all of you who want to shove your religion down everybody's throat. You know, like the dude that was on before us. We don't subscribe to any of that. Our founding fathers set up this nation so that everybody could be free. And if you want to be free, you've got to understand the principles and ideals upon which this nation was founded and the protections of the Creator-endowed rights that every man and woman is born with and are entitled to and are protected by our Constitution and a lot of other things that you have to understand. There is a tremendous concerted effort to try to destroy those things so that mankind can once again be enslaved by those who just can't ever exist without shoving their ideas and their religions and their philosophies down the throats of all other people and enslave those that they manage to get within their grasp. And so the purpose of this broadcast is to bring all of these things out to you. Send them out through this microphone, over the airwaves, into your radio, out through your speaker, and you know, so that you can take a look at them. Now, I'm going to give you my admonition once again. You see, we don't want you to blindly believe what we tell you. We want you to learn to think once again, to question. I don't know how many people I talk to all the time who tell me that they learned all about the philosophers in college and all this, and the truth is they really didn't, because anymore about the only thing that they teach is Kant, Hegel, and Marx, and they don't teach anything else, because the coming New World Order, the coming world government, the coming third wave that Mr. Toffler talks about all the time is socialism. It's Marxist, Leninist socialism, and it's being brought about through the antics and the teachings of Kant and Hegel. And so anyway, this is what's going on. And if you can't get your mind out of that, you see, I talk to these people. They tell me they learned all about the philosophers, and I ask them, "Well, did you learn about Socrates?" And they, "Oh yes, we know about Socrates." Well, what was it that Socrates taught? And well, they tell me something about you should go to your death nobly because it's the law. And that's not what he taught. What he taught was to question everything, not accept anything at face value, and not trust people, specifically public servants or members of government, to tell you the truth. You have to learn how to wade through all of the baloney and find the truth for yourself. And so we give you facts and figures, and we give you things to go and look up, and we hope that you will do that. Because if you're trusting me to tell you the truth, you're doing the same thing that you've done with everybody else all your life. How in the world would you ever know whether or not I was lying to you? I can tell you right now, I'm not going to do that. Although I will make mistakes from time to time. And if I make a mistake and any of you catch it, and if you can prove it to me, and by that I don't mean call me up and say, "Well, you made a mistake and this is the way it should be." Send me something in writing so that I can double check what you're saying and find out whether I really did make a mistake. And if I did, I'll come on the air and correct it. I've never failed to do that, folks. So, but I don't want you to trust that I'm going to tell you the truth just because I say that. And if I make a mistake and you're trusting that I'm telling you the truth and you take that mistake as the truth, then you've compounded all of these, whatever errors there may be. And that's not good for you, and it certainly isn't good for us. So we want you to take whatever information we give you and go out and research it. Study it. Find out if it's true or not. And if it is, and you've been living according to something else that you thought was the truth, you're going to have to change your life. You're going to have to change the way you live. You're going to have to change the way you think. And that's what this broadcast is all about. It's about setting you free from the prison of your own mind. It's about expanding your consciousness. It's about letting you know what freedom really is so that you can be free and so that you can give the gift of freedom to others. Because most people are walking around in this world, they haven't got the slightest idea what freedom means, but they talk about it all the time as if they do. And they spend most of their life actually trying to confine other people in their own type of prison. And this causes conflict. They spend their lives dividing themselves against the rest of the world. I'm black. Black power. Whitey did this to me. I'm a Native American. And the white man and the capitalistic magnates who wanted our land did this to me. I'm a white man and now I'm a minority because of affirmative action and I can't get a job and everybody hates me because I'm white and it's not my fault because I never owned a slave. I'm a Democrat. I'm a Republican. I'm an independent. I'm a libertarian. Let me tell you something, folks. If we don't stop that and get back to being Americans, it's going to soon be all over and there won't be any freedom. Because the process of all this division creates polarization. It creates people who then have an agenda and they're trying to enslave other people with their agenda, instead of all realizing that our common bond and our common agenda should be, must be, and has to be freedom. Because if it's not, the most glorious, the ultimate achievement of all humankind in the history of this world is going to be destroyed. And that was the creation of this nation by the Founding Fathers that finally set man free for the first time in the history of the world. It had never happened before. And if we blow it, and if we lose it now, I can tell you right now, with the state of modern technology that can be used by a dictator or a tyrant or communism or fascism, which are all in the same corner of the world and on the same side of the ruler that measures all of these things, freedom will never, ever again be within the grasp of the common man. So, while you're thinking about that, we're going to do this, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to do the Declaration of Independence. So, get ready. I think you are going to learn something. At least I hope you're going to learn something. I really, sincerely, truthfully hope that we all learn something, including me. And every time I do these broadcasts, even though starting over at the beginning, I'm going to learn something tonight too. I'm not sure exactly what it is yet, but I guarantee you it's going to happen because it never fails. Don't go away. I'll be right back after this very short pause.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of rain, for purple mountain majesties of the fruited plain. Oh, America, America. are beautiful, for heroes bloom in ever-raining skies, who more their country and mercy more than life. Oh, America, America, may God strike your till all success be your rulers, and everything be
Ladies and gentlemen, in the early days of this nation, we were under the rule of King George of England. Most, and some say all, of those who came to these shores left what they called the Old World for the New World in order to escape some type of persecution. Many of them were criminals who faced long prison sentences. Many of them were indebted so badly that they were indentured and had to work off their debt, literally as slaves, to a master on some plantation or in some colony or town, as an apprentice or helper in a blacksmith shop or working in the fields. Some of them were not indentured, were truly slaves. Many of them were escaping from religious persecution of some type. Life in that time, ladies and gentlemen, could be terribly cruel, and the average lifespan of almost anyone was very short. Most people do not realize that the United States of America existed before the Declaration of Independence was written. Most Americans today do not understand that this country was created before the Constitution was ever written, debated, approved, or adopted by the first 13 colonies. And there are many people today who believe that the first number of the colonies were exactly 13. And of course, that isn't true. If you ask anyone schooled in American history the question, who was the first president of the United States, I can guarantee you, ladies and gentlemen, that even school teachers who should know better would respond with the answer of George Washington. And the fascinating fact is, they would all each and every one of them be wrong. Wrong. You see, the United States existed as a sovereign nation more than 14 years prior to the effective date of the United States Constitution on March 4th, 1789. March 4th, 1789. Now, for most people, that is a revelation of tremendous magnitude, something that they had never been taught in their whole life. The Continental Congress, you see, first convened on September 5th, 1774. 1774. On July 12th, 1777, Congress began review of the Articles of Confederation, which were drafted by John Dickinson. They were adopted by Congress on November the 15th, 1777, and submitted to the states for ratification. When Maryland ratified the Articles of Confederation on March 1st, 1781, the United States of America had its first instrument of government, a Constitution. John Hanson of Maryland was elected President of the United States in Congress assembled in recognition of his significant role in obtaining its adoption. John Hanson was the first President of the United States, not George Washington. In fact, George Washington sent a letter to John Hanson congratulating him for his appointment to fill the most important seat in the United States. Now, there's a reason why this has been dropped from the history books. There's a reason why school children are not taught these things today. You see, the reason is that the Articles of Confederation are still in effect as law today. The Articles of Confederation were created in perpetuity, which means forever. History has also failed to account for 6 additional presidents of the United States in Congress assembled under the Articles of Confederation, as well as 7 others who were presidents of the Continental Congress. Here are the presidents of the Continental Congress. Peyton Randolph of Virginia, 1774. Henry Middleton, South Carolina, 1774. Peyton Randolph, Virginia, 1775. John Hancock, Massachusetts, 1775 and 1776. Henry Lawrence, South Carolina, 1777. John Jay, New York, 1778. Samuel Huntington, Connecticut, 1779 and 1780. Thomas McKeon, Delaware, 1781. And then the first President of the United States of America, John Hanson of Maryland, 1781. The second President of the United States of America, Elias Boudinot, New Jersey, 1782. Thomas Mifflin, Pennsylvania, 1783, was the third President of the United States of America. The fourth President was Richard Henry Lee, Virginia, 1784 and 1785, known in history as Light Horse Henry Lee. The fifth President of the United States was Nathaniel Gorham, Massachusetts, 1786. The sixth President of the United States was Arthur St. Clair, Pennsylvania, 1787. And the seventh President of the United States of America was Cyrus Griffin of Virginia, who held his office in 1788. George Washington, ladies and gentlemen, was actually the 8th President of the United States of America. The President of the United States and Congress assembled at that time was more equivalent to today's Speaker of the House. He lacked the independent status, authority, and power under the Articles of Confederation to have any leadership effect on government actions. You see, Congress was in all respects both the executive and legislative branches at that time. The Confederation government had no authority to regulate commerce and trade among the states and with foreign nations, and it had no taxing authority. It lacked necessary trading and shipping treaties with Great Britain. There was no national currency. Banks printed their own money. The common coin of the realm was actually a Dutch thaler, which over the years became pronounced dollar. The association of the states could be characterized at best as the disunited States of America. States printed their own paper money that was not backed by gold or silver. It was not interchangeable and often became worthless. All but 2 of the 13 colonies had their own navy. The national government was insolvent and couldn't even pay the interest on the debts of the American Revolution to domestic and foreign lenders. These issues, coupled with adverse British regulations on American trade and shipping, eventually led to the Great Depression of 1785. The nation was in a disastrous financial condition. Most of Europe fully expected the United States to completely disintegrate. On September 11, 1786, 12 commissioners from 5 states, now listen to me carefully, 12 commissioners from 5 states met for 4 days at the Annapolis Convention held in the Maryland State House. The stated purpose was to discuss reform of the vexatious restrictions placed upon interstate commerce by the various states. Now, nothing was ever resolved on this issue from that meeting. James Madison, however, persuaded the states in attendance, with the assistance of Alexander Hamilton, that the political evils of the day were directly attributable to commercial deficiencies within the Articles of Confederation. The delegates joined in a resolution calling for a constitutional convention to be held in Philadelphia in May of 1787 to, quote, take into consideration the trade and commerce of the United States, end quote. Congress on February the 21st, 1787, issued a resolution stating, quote, that in the opinion of Congress it is expedient that on the second Monday in May next a convention of delegates who shall have been appointed by the several states be held in Philadelphia, and listen closely to this, folks, for the sole and express purpose of revising the Articles of Confederation and reporting to Congress and the several legislatures such alterations and provisions therein as shall, when agreed to in Congress and confirmed by the states, render the federal Constitution adequate to the exigencies of government and the preservation of the Union. That's why they don't want you to know anything about what went before. Because you see, the Articles of Confederation were never abolished. They were just added onto by something called the Constitution for the United States of America. All of this began, ladies and gentlemen, in Congress assembled, the Congress of the United States of America on July 4th, 1776, with the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to effect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies. For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our government. For suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with the power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens, taken captive on the high seas, to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and to consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace friends. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. The signers of the Declaration of Independence, ladies and gentlemen: John Adams, Massachusetts, age 40, died in 1826. Samuel Adams, Massachusetts, age 53, died in 1803. Josiah Bartlett, New Hampshire, age 46, died in 1795. Carter Braxton of Virginia, age 40, died in 1797. Charles Carroll of Maryland, age 38, died in 1832. Samuel Chase of Maryland, age 35, died in 1811. Abraham Clark of New Jersey, age 50, died in 1784. George Clymer of Pennsylvania, age 37, died in 1813. William Ellery of Rhode Island, age 48, died in 1820. William Floyd of New York, age 41, died in 1821. Benjamin Franklin of Pennsylvania, age 70, died in 1790. Elbridge Gerry of Massachusetts, age 32, died in 1814. Button Gwinnett of Georgia, age 44, died in 1777. Lyman Hall of Georgia, age 45, died in 1790. John Hancock of Massachusetts, age 39, died in 1793. Benjamin Harrison of Virginia, age unknown at the time of the signing, died in 1791. John Hart of New Jersey, age 63, died in 1780. Joseph Hughes of North Carolina, age 46, died in 1779. Thomas Hayward, Jr. of South Carolina, age 30, died in 1804. William Hooper of North Carolina, age 34, died in 1790. Stephen Hopkins of Rhode Island, age 71, died in 1785. Francis Hopkinson of New Jersey, age 39, died in 1790. Samuel Huntington of Connecticut, age 44, died in 1796. Thomas Jefferson of Virginia, age 33, died in 1826. Francis Lightfoot Lee of Virginia, age 42, died in 1797. Richard Henry Lee of Virginia, age 44, died in 1794. Francis Lewis of New York, age 63, died in 1803. Philip Livingston of New York, age 60, died in 1778. Thomas Lynch, Jr., South Carolina, age 26, died in 1779. Thomas McKeon of Delaware, age 42, died in 1817. Arthur Middleton of South Carolina, age 34, died in 1787. Lewis Morris of New York, age 50, died in 1798. Robert Morris of Pennsylvania, age 43, died in 1806. John Morton of Pennsylvania, age 52, died in 1777. Thomas Nelson, Jr. of Virginia, age 37, died in 1789. William Paca of Maryland, age 40, died in 1799. Robert Treat Paine of Massachusetts, age 45, died in 1804. John Penn of North Carolina, age 25, died in 1809. George Reed of Delaware, age 42, died in 1798. Caesar Rodney of Delaware, age 46, died in 1783. George Ross of Pennsylvania, age 46, died in 1779. Benjamin Rush of Pennsylvania, age 31, died in 1813. Edward Rutledge of South Carolina, age 26, died in 1800. Roger Sherman of Connecticut, age 55, died in 1783. James Smith of Pennsylvania, age unknown at the time of the signing, died in 1806. Richard Stockton of New Jersey, age 46, died in 1781. Thomas Stone of Maryland, age 34, died in 1787. George Taylor of Pennsylvania, age 60, died in 1781. Matthew Thornton of New Hampshire, age 62, died in 1803. George Walton of Georgia, age 36, died in 1804. William Whipple of New Hampshire, age 46, died in 1785. William Williams of Connecticut, age 45, died in 1811. James Wilson of Pennsylvania, age 34, died in 1798. John Witherspoon of New Jersey, age 54, died in 1794. Oliver Walcott of Connecticut, age 50, died in 1797. George Wythe of Virginia, age 50, died in 1806. If you were paying attention, ladies and gentlemen, you will have noticed that most of them died as young men within just a few years of having signed the Declaration of Independence. And you're going to hear all about that right after the top of the hour. Now, it is absolutely imperative that you understand that everything we have today we owe to those men. Everything, without exception. They created the freedom. They created the nation. They recognized that all men are created equal, endowed with certain unalienable rights. By their Creator. Everything they did was based upon those basic principles. And every bit of law that they wrote and passed into being was created to protect the rights of the individual. And that resulted in a people living truly, completely, and entirely free, responsible for their own actions, under law, kings and queens in their own right, for the first time in the history of the entire world. It created the greatest nation that has ever existed in the history of the world, with the highest standard of living, the best education, and with the ability over the years to complete the work of the founders in many, many other areas and by many other methods, including, ladies and gentlemen, doing away with slavery upon this continent, including eventually granting the right to vote to all people, and a whole lot of other things. Without their actions, with the foundation of principle and ideal that they recognized and set down in the law, without the protections given to the individuals under the Constitution for the United States of America, none of that could have ever occurred. None of it would have ever occurred. And that is what you must understand. We'll speak on other nights about society as it existed then, how it existed, why it existed, who is to blame for what, and why it should not be carried over into this time today. There are many people who have a vested interest and a solid agenda that by dividing us amongst ourselves, against ourselves, they will once again enslave us all. That's always the end result. United we stand, divided we fall. The only agenda that belongs to Americans, I don't care which Americans you are, is the agenda of freedom. That is the only way that we can all be happy, that we can all live together, that we can all realize the great dream that the Founding Fathers set into motion with the Declaration of Independence. It is the ultimate achievement of all humankind that we recognize this. I am amazed when I see people who came from a history of persecution setting out to persecute others. It pains me deeply. And I know where it will take us, and I know exactly how it will end. And that must be avoided at all costs, under any and all circumstances. It must be recognized by all Americans for exactly what it is, a manipulation to lead us down the wrong path, right back into the chains from which we have been breaking off our ankles for hundreds and yes, even thousands of years. The Founding Fathers understood human nature probably better than anyone who have ever lived upon the face of this earth. They warned us what would happen if we did not remain eternally vigilant. They warned us what would happen if we sought security from the government. They warned us what would happen if we allowed governments to have standing armies amongst us. They warned us what would happen if we were not responsible for our own lives. They warned us what the penalty would be if we accepted gifts from benefactors. George Washington, in his farewell address, warned us about getting involved in the affairs of other nations, other states, foreign to these shores. And sure enough, all of their warnings were right on target and absolutely true. And what have we done? We have cast their warnings aside like so much moldy bread and gone ahead and done every single thing that they have warned us against. You think about that while we do the station break here at the top of this hour. And then we're going to tell you what happened to those men who signed the Declaration of Independence, what they gave up for us. And we owe them everything that we are and that we have and that we ever could be. You're listening to WBCQ, Monticello, Maine, USA.
Oh, God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountain to the prairie, through the ocean, white with foam, God bless America, my home, sweet home.
The story of the Declaration of Independence, ladies and gentlemen, is something that is not taught anymore. And I hope your children are sitting in your living room listening to this broadcast, because tonight you're going to hear a little about it. You're going to hear about the enduring truth of its philosophy of freedom, the underlying courage and sacrifice required of its signers. John Adams said in 1781, and I quote, "This immortal declaration of the 4th of July, 1776, was not the effect of any sudden passion or enthusiasm, but a measure which had been long in deliberation among the people, maturely discussed in some hundreds of popular assemblies and by public writings in all the states. It was a measure which Congress, the Continental Congress, did not adopt until they had received the positive instructions of their constituents in all the states. It was then unanimously adopted by Congress, subscribed by all its members, transmitted to the assemblies of the several states, and by them respectively accepted, ratified, and recorded among their archives, so that no decree, edict, statute, placard, or fundamental law of any nation was ever made with more solemnity or with more unanimity or cordiality adopted as the act and consent of the whole people than this. And it has been held sacred to this day by every state with such unshaken firmness that not even the smallest has ever been induced to depart from it, although the English have wasted many millions and vast fleets and armies in the vain attempt to invalidate it." End quote. The Pennsylvania State House, ladies and gentlemen, was hot. It was humid. And it was charged with emotion as representatives from the 13 colonies came together in June and July of 1776 to consider severing their allegiance to an oppressive government and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitled them. Every single man felt the enormous significance of the moment. In a June 9th, 1776 letter, John Adams confided, and I quote, "Objects of the most stupendous magnitude and measures in which the lives and liberties of millions yet unborn are intimately interested are now before us. When these things are once completed, I shall think that I have answered the end of my creation." End quote. And each man knew the dangers he faced. Already, two revolutionary leaders, John Hancock and Samuel Adams, faced the scaffold if caught by the British. for to England these men were traitors. All knew that if their mission failed, they too would be hanged for treason. And as John Adams noted in a letter to Abigail, the declaration was, in fact, an act of treason. And if it were not made good, those who had signed it stood a good chance to incur the penalty meted out to traitors. But the signers of the Declaration of Independence were not, ladies and gentlemen, rabble-rousers. They were, as patriots are today, responsible leaders and these men were from the 13 colonies, men of vision, men of high standing in their communities. 25 were lawyers or jurists. 11 were merchants. 9 were farmers or large plantation owners, and there were also doctors and educators. You see, a war was already in progress as they gathered in the Pennsylvania State House in a sweltering, hot, humid room with doors and windows tightly shut, and pledged their lives, their fortunes, and risked conviction for treason in order to gain liberty for themselves and you, their posterity. They formed a committee on June 11th to draw up a declaration. The members of this committee were John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Roger Sherman, and Robert Livingston. Jefferson, whose writing skills were acknowledged by the other committee members, was chosen to draft the declaration. Looking back on the event in 1825, Jefferson recalled that their purpose had been to provide an appeal to the tribunal of the world. This, he said, was the object of the Declaration of Independence, not to find out new principles or new arguments, not merely to say things which had never been said before, but to place before mankind the common sense of the subject in terms so plain and firm as to command their assent and to justify ourselves in the independent stand we are compelled to take. In other words, he explained, it was intended to be an expression of the American mind. All its authority rests then on the harmonizing sentiments of the day, expressed in conversation, in letters, printed essays, and in the books of public right, such as Aristotle, Cicero, Locke, Sidney, et al. And now, on July 3rd, the Declaration was almost ready. Jefferson, you see, had completed a second draft, and only a few minor alterations were needed. Decisions on the final wording was near. One delegate, only one, Caesar Rodney, who had gone back to Delaware on an important errand, was summoned for the vote. Suffering from an advanced case of facial cancer, he nevertheless rode horseback all night long in the rain, arriving late in the morning for this crucial decision, which no one would vote upon in his absence. There was much heated debate, because not everyone was convinced that the time had come for a formal severance of all ties with the mother country. John Dickinson spoke eloquently and persuasively of the need for restraint, warning of the calamities that might follow should they fail. The delegates, or at least some of them, were wavering when Edward Rutledge prevailed upon John Adams to speak out in support of independence. This was a crucial moment. Adams rose to the occasion. He made an impassioned appeal to reason that restored the resolve of the representatives to risk everything, all that they possessed in support of independence. Making no false claims, Adams spoke with candor and told the member, "If you imagine that I expect this declaration will ward off calamities, you, sirs, are mistaken. A bloody conflict we are destined to endure. The mission, dear listeners, was accomplished, and what was to become the greatest nation in the history of the world came into being. The spirit of liberty, which had taken root on American soil more than 150 years earlier and had flourished in the American mind, had now expressed itself to the entire world. Adopted on July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence became the fundamental statement of the basic principles and timeless truths upon which the nation was to be established, and was in fact the first document in law. 11 years later, the framers of the Constitution of the United States of America would, by that document, establish a new government upon the principles set forth in the Declaration. By so doing, they would translate the philosophy of the Declaration into a constitutional structuring of a government of limited powers based upon the consent of the governed, designed to secure the individual's creator-endowed rights of life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. When the Declaration was signed, William Ellery of Rhode Island stood where he could watch each man affix his signature. "I was determined," he wrote, "to see how they all looked as they signed what might be their death warrant. I eyed each closely. Undaunted resolution was displayed upon every countenance." Such, ladies and gentlemen, was the strength and courage of our founding fathers. No one today remembers all of that. It's not taught anymore. Very few understand or realize the hardships that the men who signed that document faced and indeed underwent after the act itself was performed. These were indeed brave men who were loyal to principles and ideals and accomplished what no humanity had ever accomplished before in the history of this earth. For the first time, each and every man stood as a sovereign king in his own right, with the government as his chattel servant. Each and every person, it was recognized, were endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable, natural, irrevocable rights, protected by the first document in law, the Declaration of Independence, and then later the Articles of Confederation, and finally the ultimate of their genius, the Constitution for the United States of America, and the first 10 amendments, which we know today, for those of us who know it, the Bill of Rights. And the price that they paid, these men who gave us all that we have or ever will have or have ever known, was staggering. Posterity, you will never know how much it costs the present generation to preserve your freedom. I hope you will make good use of it, said John Quincy Adams. Posterity, ladies and gentlemen, is you. You are their posterity. John Quincy Adams, the son of a revolutionary leader, knew firsthand about the hardships of the men who signed the Declaration of Independence. Future generations have also come, those of us who have studied it, to appreciate the great personal sacrifices they made to win freedom for themselves, their families, their countrymen, and you, their posterity. You, the sheeple, who are in the process of giving it away. It is little wonder, therefore, that Americans have traditionally revered the extraordinary men who gave us not only independence, but also the greatest system of government ever known to man. Ever. To the American people, at least until the present day, they were known affectionately as the Founding Fathers. Today they would be called right-wing, religious fundamentalists, militia member terrorists, by those who enjoy the freedom, the fruits, the benefits, the results of all that they suffered. And I'm going to tell you now the accounts of their suffering, each of them. Listen carefully. For they gave up all, everything, so that you can whine and complain and stick out your hand like little children to the government to protect you, while you scream about patriots and militiamen who are out to get you, whose only interest is in the preservation of what our founding fathers created and gave to us. For these men and women of the modern day, who follow in the footsteps of those who created this great nation, understand that to give it up is to give up the ultimate achievement of all humankind and revert back to the position of slavery. In early September in 1776, the British burned the home of Francis Lewis, and they seized his wife. Held in a prison with no bed and no change of clothes, she was finally released after 2 years of suffering. Her health was gone, and she died soon after her release. Lewis, though heartbroken, continued to serve in the Continental Congress until 1779. He died in 1802 at the age of 89. He gave everything for you, and you never heard of him until tonight. Philip Livingston's 150,000-acre estate was seized by the British, but he continued to contribute his dwindling fortune to Congress for the war effort. He financed the beginning of this nation. The strain of the revolutionary struggle also depleted his health, and he died less than 2 years after he signed the Declaration of Independence. How many of you ever heard of Philip Livingston? Or Lewis Morris, whose Westchester estate was ransacked by the British, and nearly 1,000 acres were burned. His home was destroyed, his cattle butchered, and his family driven from home. Morris also served in the New York Senate and died in 1798 at the age of 71. John Hart's New Jersey home was looted and burned, his grist mills destroyed, while he eluded capture by sleeping in caves and forests. His ailing wife died and his 13 children were scattered. His failing health forced him to leave the New Jersey legislature in 1779, and he died less than 3 years after the Declaration was signed. Joseph Hughes of North Carolina, though at first reluctant to favor independence, gave tirelessly of himself to create a navy and help General Washington. He worked long hours without adequate food. He lost his health and died in 1779 at the age of 49. Richard Stockton rushed home to Princeton, New Jersey in 1776 to rescue his family from approaching British troops. He was captured and thrown into prison, where he was repeatedly beaten and kept near starvation. The British also destroyed his home and burned his papers. And as a result of his mistreatment, he became an invalid and died in 1781. William Floyd's estate in New York was overrun and ruined by the British. Although he could not return to his home during the 7 years of the war, he gallantly served his country in the New York Senate and as a representative from New York in the First Congress. And then he died in 1821. Francis Hopkinson's home was twice ransacked. But his enthusiasm for the war effort never wavered, and he remained in Congress throughout the Revolution. His artistic sketch of the Stars and Stripes led to our official United States flag. But the years, ladies and gentlemen, had taken their toll, and he died suddenly in 1791 at the age of 53. Abraham Clark also served in Congress throughout the war. He had 2 sons in the Continental Army. That's a fancy name for militia, both of whom received harsh treatment from the British after they were captured. Clark continued to serve his country in many ways, and he was elected a delegate to the Federal Convention of 1787 that produced our Constitution. He died at 68. Caesar Rodney, the one upon whom they waited while he rode through the night, became a major general in the Delaware militia. Militia. And if you're a puke-faced communist, liberal, thug, Marxist scumbag, I hope that word makes you sick. Militia. He became a major general in the Delaware militia, and despite his advancing facial skin cancer, fought beside his men in the bitter winter of 1776 and 1777. He also served in the Delaware legislature and was appointed to the Congress in 1782. Declining health kept him from serving, however, and he died in 1784 at the young age of 55. Thomas McKeon recalled to John Adams that he was hunted like a fox during the Revolution, and at one time was compelled to move his family 5 times in just a few months. He served faithfully, however, signing the Articles of Confederation, serving as President of Congress, Chief Justice of Pennsylvania, and as a delegate to the Constitutional Convention, and finally as Governor of Pennsylvania. George Clymer's home in Chester was taken over by the British. Although he lost more than 100 of his ships during the Revolution, he dedicated himself to raising money for the war effort, working closely with his friend, Robert Morris. And in 1781, Robert Morris issued over $1 million of personal credit to finance the war effort and raised $200,000 from friends to defeat the British at Yorktown. In 1798, his personal finance collapsed, never reimbursed by his country. He spent 3 years in a debtor's prison. Discouraged and in poor health, he died in 1806. How many of you have even given $5 or $20 or $100 to help us save what these men gave their all to give to us? John Morton was criticized bitterly by many of his Pennsylvania neighbors for breaking the tie vote of the Pennsylvania delegation in favor of independence. The criticism depressed him deeply. Early in 1777, he became ill and died. Among his last words were these, and I quote, "Tell them that they shall acknowledge it to have been the most glorious service that I have ever rendered to my country," end quote. William Paca of Maryland poured thousands of dollars of his own personal fortune into clothing the American soldiers. He worked to establish Maryland's government and served as governor from 1782 to 1785. William Ellery's Newport home was burned during the invasion of Rhode Island. He nevertheless continued to serve his country. William Williams sacrificed his fortune for the cause, financing a number of enterprises, including the Ticonderoga offensive. Carter Braxton saw virtually every merchant ship he owned sunk or captured by the British, and although he lost his wealth and was forced to sell his land, he continued to serve in the Virginia legislature. Lyman Hall's rice plantation was destroyed by the British, but his family escaped to the north. George Walton was wounded and captured. After release, he served as Governor and Chief Justice of Georgia and as a United States Senator. Thomas Hayward Jr. served in the Army and was taken prisoner. The British raided his plantation while he was in prison and burned his buildings. His wife became ill and died before he was released. Arthur Middleton was captured and imprisoned after the British ravaged his plantation. Later, he served in the Congress, and in 1788 he contracted a fever and died at the age of 44. William Hooper of North Carolina was hunted by the British. He fled, and they burned his home and lands. Hooper served in the North Carolina legislature, and in 1770 he died at the age of 48. That should be 1790. The numbers are reversed here. In 1790, he died at the age of 48. Thomas Nelson Jr. served as governor of Virginia and distributed large sums of his money to the families of his soldiers. At the Battle of Yorktown, he led 3,000 Virginia militia against the British. At the Battle of Yorktown, he led 3,000 Virginia militia against the British. Although the British took refuge in homes belonging to Virginians, Nelson's troops shelled them anyway. During the engagement, Nelson turned one cannon on his own home and lit the fuse, killing the 2 British officers inside. After the Revolution, his health declined and he died in 1789. How many of you would do the same? At the time of the signing, John Hancock, one of the wealthiest men in the 13 colonies, was one of 2 colonial leaders up to that time who were wanted for hanging. He, too, pledged all that he had for independence and signed his name so boldly that even today a signature is referred to as a John Hancock. He did it as a flaunt to the king, but the king had sentenced him to death upon capture. The other leader on the British wanted list was courageous Samuel Adams, one of the few representatives of truly modest means. He proudly affixed his name and, risking all, gave his entire life in service. The sacrifices and services of these men and their families are typical, ladies and gentlemen, of the price which an entire generation of brave Americans were willing to pay for freedom. Payne, Thornton, Whipple, and Bartlett gave their lives for this nation. The inspired document, ladies and gentlemen, had come from the pen of Thomas Jefferson. Other members of the committee had played a part in the final wording, but according to Richard Stockton, it was John Adams to whom the country is most indebted for the great measure of independency. For it was Adams, he noted, who sustained the debate and by force of his reasoning alone demonstrated not only the justice but the expediency of the measure. When the spirits of some might have wavered, Adams' impassioned appeal had given them an extra measure of courage for the vote to adopt the Declaration of Independence. But the story does not end here. Both Jefferson, the author of the Declaration, and Adams, its leading advocate, were unable to attend the 1787 Constitutional Convention because they were representing America abroad. Both, however, served as President of the United States. Both headed up the first political parties in the new republic. Jefferson becoming the leader of the Republicans. Did you hear that? Jefferson becoming the leader of the Republicans, and Adams assuming command of the Federalists. All of this democratic parroting of the word Jeffersonian Democrat or the Jeffersonian Democratic Party is a lie, like almost everything else that they parrot, for they are chronic liars. Jefferson was the leader of the Republican Party. Adams was the leader of the Federalists. In retirement, although these two men had not shared the same beliefs on some issues, they maintained a deep and abiding friendship through voluminous correspondence, which you should all obtain and read if you care one iota about your future. On the 50th anniversary of American independence, July 4th, 1826, John Adams died. His final words were, and I quote, "Thomas Jefferson remains," end quote. You see, he was not aware that before noon on that very same day, Thomas Jefferson, too, had passed away. Exactly 50 years after that glorious day when by their very courageous actions, the miracle that we know as America had begun. Many things has happened between then and now. But one of the greatest things that has happened is that the American people have forgotten the men who brought this country into being, the ideals upon which they based the great gifts that they handed down to you, their posterity, and the principles to which they held true, to which they were willing to give everything that they owned and held dear to bring into being. How is it that we are so eager to give these things away? You see, it takes an enlightened, committed people who understand the principles of our Constitution to maintain the status of liberty and freedom. And mark my words, all of you listening around the world, if America falls, so go you. The most effective means of preserving liberty is to understand it. You see, although all men are born free, slavery has been the general lot of the human race. Ignorant, they have been cheated. Asleep, they have been surprised. Divided, the yoke has been forced upon them. But what is the lesson? The people ought to be enlightened, to be awakened, to be united, that after establishing a government, they should watch over it. It is universally admitted that a well-instructed people alone can be permanently free. James Madison said that. He didn't know anything about today, but he understood very well human nature. Thomas Jefferson said, "We must not let our rulers load us with perpetual debt. We must make our election between economy and liberty our profusion and servitude." Sir William Blackstone said, "Man must necessarily be subject to the laws of his Creator. This will of his Maker is called the law of nature. This law of nature is, of course, superior to any other. No human laws are of any validity if contrary to this, and such of them as are valid derive all their force from this original." America's Constitution is the means by which knowledgeable and free people, capable of self-government, if they are, can bind and control their elected representatives in government. In order to remain free, the founders said, the people themselves must clearly understand the ideas and principles upon which their constitutional government is based. Through such understanding, they will be able to prevent those in power from eroding their constitutional protections. See, our founders established schools and seminaries for the distinct purpose of instilling in youth the lessons of history and the ideas of liberty. And in their day, they were successful. Tocqueville, an eminent French jurist, traveled America, and in his 1830s work entitled Democracy in America, wrote, "Every citizen is taught the doctrines and the evidences of his religion, the history of his country, and the leading features of its constitution. It is extremely rare to find a man imperfectly acquainted with all these things, and a person wholly ignorant of them is a sort of phenomenon. Today, ladies and gentlemen, a person who understands and knows these things is the rarity." While he was on the frontier, he noted that no sort of comparison can be drawn between the pioneer and the dwelling that shelters him. He wears the dress and speaks the language of the cities. He is acquainted with the past, curious about the future, and ready for argument about the present. I do not think that so much intellectual activity exists in the most enlightened and populous districts of France. And he continued. He said, "It cannot be doubted that in the United States the instruction of the people powerfully contributes to the support of the democratic republic, and such must always be the case, where the instruction which enlightens the understanding is not separated from the moral education." We cannot say that today. Possessing a clear understanding of the failure of previous civilizations to achieve and sustain freedom for individuals, our forefathers discovered some timeless truths about human nature, and that was their forte. They knew and understood human nature probably better than anyone who has ever lived. The struggle for individual liberty, the human tendency toward abuse of power, and the means for curbing that tendency through constitutional self-government. Jefferson's bill for the more general diffusion of knowledge for Virginia declared, and I quote, "Experience hath shewn that even under the best forms of government, those entrusted with power have in time, and by slow operations, perverted it into tyranny. And it is believed that the most effectual means of preventing this would be to illuminate the minds of the people, to give them knowledge of those facts which history exhibiteth. History, by apprising them of the past, will enable them to judge of the future. It will qualify them as judges of the actions and designs of men. It will enable them to know ambition under every disguise it may assume, and knowing it, to defeat its views. End quote. See, education was not perceived by the founders to be a mere process for teaching basic skills. It was much, much more. Education included the very process by which the people of America would understand and be able to preserve their liberty and secure their Creator-endowed rights. And this is not taught anymore. And that is why the state has seized control of the schools, so that it cannot be taught. And any teacher who begins to teach these things will not long be a teacher today. Understanding the nature and origin of their rights and the means of preserving them, the people would be capable of self-government, for they would recognize any threats to liberty and nip the shoots of arbitrary power in the bud, said John Adams. Little did he know the apathy, ignorance, and yes, stupidity of the modern American. If he did, he may not have risked everything. The basic idea of America's Constitution was a small federal government, strong local and state governments, and a well-armed people to make sure that it stayed that way. A militia made up of the whole of the people, so that tyranny could never take root in America. And that's why those who would have a socialist, one-world totalitarian government are so afraid of the militia. And that's why they must demonize these good, patriotic Americans who, like our founding fathers, are willing to risk all. Including the ridicule of those who haven't the slightest idea of what it's all about. You see, the basic idea was to get government as close to the people as possible. The more remote it is from the people, the more dangerous it becomes. In the words of Thomas Jefferson, ladies and gentlemen, the true theory of our Constitution is surely the wisest and best. When all government shall be drawn to Washington as the center of all power, it will render powerless the checks provided of one government on another, and will become as oppressive as the government from which we separated. What has destroyed the liberty and the rights of man in every government which has ever existed under the sun, the generalizing and concentrating all cares and powers into one body. The way to have good and safe government is not to trust it all to one, but to divide it among the many. For it is by dividing and subdividing these republics from the great national one down that all will be done for the best. James Madison stressed the necessity to reserve all possible authority in the states and the people, saying, and I quote, "The powers delegated by the Constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those which are to remain in the state governments are numerous and indefinite, and the rest shall remain with the people." Amendment 10. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. What in the world has happened? See, the genius of America's Constitution was its separation of powers. America's founders had declared themselves free of a tyrannical government. They were determined that such tyranny would never be repeated in this land. Their new charter of government, the Constitution, very carefully defined the powers delegated to government, outlined them clearly, and forbade any more. Our founders were determined to bind down the administrators of the federal government with constitutional chains so that abuse of power in any of its branches would be prevented. You see, the revolutionary idea of separation of powers, although unpopular at first, became a means by which this was to be accomplished. John Adams, in a letter to Dr. Benjamin Rush, stated, quote, "I called you to witness that I was the first member of Congress who ventured to come out in public as I did in January 1776 in my thoughts on government in favor of a government with 3 branches and an independent judiciary." End quote. By the time the Constitution was adopted, the idea was supported by all of the members of the Convention. James Madison, the father of the Constitution, devoted 5 Federalist papers, numbers 47 through 51, to an explanation of how the executive, legislative, and judicial branches were to be wholly independent of each other, yet bound together through an intricate system of checks and balances. Madison believed that keeping the 3 branches separated was fundamental to the preservation of liberty, and he wrote, "The accumulation of all powers, legislative, executive, and judiciary, in the same hands, whether of one, a few, or many, may justly be pronounced the very definition of tyranny." George Washington, in his farewell address, reminded Americans of the need to preserve the Founders' system. He spoke of the love of power and proneness to abuse it which predominates in the human heart, and warned of the necessity of reciprocal checks of political power by dividing and distributing it into different depositories and constituting each the guardian against invasions by the others. Of such checks and balances, through the separation of powers, be concluded, to preserve them must be as necessary as to institute them. Through a system of subversion of the Constitution for the United States of America, beginning as early as the Civil War, taking its main form in 1913 with what we call the Federal Reserve Act, and then the total subversion by granting the war powers to the President on March the 9th, 1933, and then by the misinterpretation of Article 6 of the Constitution for the United States of America. And this misinterpretation states that by signing and ratifying a treaty, it supersedes the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution. Our forefathers made it clear that nothing could supersede the law of the land, the Constitution, but that treaties must be in alignment with it. But by all of this, the adoption of the United Nations Treaty and the passage of the United Nations Participation Act, and many, many, many more, the balance of power has been rendered asunder. All of the powers of the government are in one hand, and William Clinton, that is how dare I say that we live in tyranny in the freest country in the world. For while the rest of the world is bound by 3 chains, it makes no difference whether we are bound by 1 or 2. We are still the freest country in the world, and we are still living under tyranny, and we are just a stone's throw from the 3rd chain. That is how dare I, and I will continue to dare. And if need be, I will give my life for my country. I understand the difference now. I understand full well that I was a fool, thinking that I was serving my country when I was sent to Vietnam to further the interest of tyranny, and that now I am called a terrorist for standing up on the soil that my fathers and my forefathers and our founding fathers fought and died to protect. As a patriot, your lies Bill Clinton won't wash. Jeffersonian Democrats, indeed. It is amazing that Americans have lost the ability to use their brains. Good.
Tomorrow all the things were gone, work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, as a fact of thanks for freedom, and they can't take that away. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains, from sea to side and sea, from Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA, where the pride in every American heart, anytime we stand and stand.
Well, we're coming up on the top of the 2nd hour now, and then we'll go into the last hour. Doyle is going to go over all the products that we have to offer, and then we're going to open the phones. If you want to jot down the phone number, do it now, 520-333-4578. For those of you who were hearing a buzz during this last hour, it's not WBCQ, and it's not your radio. It's a piece of equipment here, so don't worry about it. The telephone number, once again, is 520-333-4578. That's also the number that you need to call sometime tomorrow afternoon, or let me see, what's tomorrow, Wednesday? Or Thursday afternoon, in order to get the shipping charges for any of the products that we offer that you may wish to purchase. Some of them we will tell you are post-paid, so you don't need to get shipping charges for whatever we tell you is post-paid. Okay? And here's the address, by the way, in case you want to order any of the things that Doyle is going to give you. You might want to jot that down right now. It's the Hour of the Time. That's the Hour of the Time. In care of 101.1 FM. That's 101.1 FM. Post Office Box 940. That's P.O. Box 940. Eager, spelled E-A-G-A-R, Arizona. That's Eager, spelled E-A-G-A-R, Arizona, 85925. Once again, the Hour of the Time, 101.1 FM, P.O. Box 940, Eager, Arizona, 85925. Well, folks, I'm going to take a break. So, here's Doyle. Don't forget Doyle at the top of the hour.
Sure. All righty. Alrighty, this evening I just wanted to run over the products we have here to offer. First off, I'd like to start with the shortwave antenna kit. This is a really nice kit we put together here.
Wait a minute, Doyle. We forgot. 101's still in the air. For those of you listening to 101.1 FM in the Round Valley, we're going to have to take the transmitter off the air while we do our commercials. 101.1 FM is a nonprofit community service radio station. Go ahead.
Alrighty. Anyway, this antenna kit that we've put together, this is a very high quality kit. It comes with a 75 foot of pure copper and insulated wire. That's for your line antenna. You can either do a straight line or bend it either way you want. Do a V or inverted V dipole, which would be the best. It comes with 50 foot of insulated lead-in wire, 2 ceramic insulators for your lead-in, 2 end insulators for your straight line antenna, full directions, and in fact, in the directions are instructions which include the formulations to tune this antenna to the exact frequency that you may desire. If you want to tune it to a certain band by trimming it, you can do that. You really tweak the antenna to get maximum performance. But just remember, if you do that, you are going to cut out performance on some of the higher meter bands, your 120 and whatnot, if you start trimming it. So just keep that in mind if you wish to do that. That's all explained in the complete directions. That is $24.95 postage paid. It is sent priority mail. $24.95 priority mail, postage paid. And those will go out with about 2 or 3 days time after we get your order. Not so we can hoard your money, it's so that we can deal with orders and logistics of it. The next thing I'd like to cover is the Mainstay Food. This Mainstay line of food rations is very popular throughout the your teams that deal with a search and rescue, or people that have to stay out for long terms of time away from civilization, as we call it, or just on-off light switches and running water that people are used to. This is some really good stuff. It's got a 5-year shelf life. It's non-thirst provoking. It's packaged in a very durable, waterproof, vacuum-sealed package that withstands temperature ranges from -40 to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. No cholesterol, no tropical oils, and to give you an idea how well made this product is it's approved by the Defense Personnel Support Center, the U.S. Army, the U.S. Coast Guard approved, and almost all of your emergency and search and rescue teams across America have approved this for their own kits as well as the people that they go out and save. This is some really good stuff. We have the 3,600 calorie bars it's referred to. A case of 10 of those packets. Each packet is 3,600 calories. That's quite a bit. You only need 1,200 for a full day of moderate work. heavy labor only requires 1,800 calories. So you can see how this is quite a bit of calorie intake. One case of 10 packets is $43.50. Call for information about the postage, and we will tell you how the cost of the UPS shipping. It is $43.50 for a case of 10 of these packets. Okay, 5-year shelf life. The next product is the Mainstay Water. This is manufactured, of course, by the same people. Many of the same statistics, the metallized, foil-type, vacuum-sealed packaging. Each packet is 4.225 ounces, roughly equal to soft drinks you see, those juice drinks in the store for children or whoever. This water is purified, sterilized, and then sealed in the airtight pouches to prevent bacteria growth. So nice advantage of this is unlike bottled water, which must be stored in dark, cool places. I forgot something, Alan. Sorry. This is WBCQ, Monticello, Maine, USA. Anyway, unlike bottled water, which must be stored generally in dark, cool places to basically inhibit bacterial growth and the algae stale taste that water gets when it's packaged like that. You don't have to worry about this stuff. Also, with the average bottled water, only lasts about 6 months shelf life because of 2 reasons. Propagation of germs, number 1. Number 2, the packaging. Most of your plastics, by EPA mandate to these manufacturers, and they follow it, is 1 year down to 6 months life before it decomposes or begins decomposing. It's supposedly to help cut down on landfill. So you can see why those packages break down, and that's why they rotate products so quick. This has a 5-year shelf life. Much easier to transport than a 5-gallon jug of water, too. The price of this water is 60 packets of it in a case for $19.95. I repeat, 60 packets in a case for $19.95. The next thing is a really good book we found. It's called the Wallace Guidebook. This is a really nice book. It's written by a founder of one of the largest survival institutes. As far as preparedness, this man instructs PTA groups, schools, counties, cities, states, emergency teams. This man is really an expert in this field. And this is a book that he wrote himself. It includes literally hundreds of innovative survival techniques, covering anything from simple scratches to childbirth, along with indoor-outdoor scenarios and tips you may need. This is an excellent book to have. It is $5.49 for the Wallace Guidebook. It's an excellent deal. This book, you will guarantee to learn something. I don't care if you're a nurse or a doctor, you will learn more. Okay, the next thing I'd like to cover is the First Aid and Travel Kit. This kit is oriented more towards people that are out and about, away from home. Okay, this includes hikers, hunters, a lot of bikers. Your bike races and stuff carry these in their kits and their little fanny bags. Also, a lot of people that travel, professionals in their line of work, causes them to travel a lot, actually carry these with them, especially if they're going way far away from home or out of the country. It's a really handy kit to have. It includes a lot of stuff. You got a soft carrying case, pads all the items, protects them, instant cold pack, adhesive bandages, alcohol wipes, antiseptic wipes, the sterilized water packet, so if you need it to wash a wound or to drink, antibiotic ointment, tissue packs, gauze pads, disposable gloves. It's a really nice kit. This kit is only $7.95. This is a really nice thing to have or to give as a gift for people who you know travel a lot, or hikers or hunters, anybody along that line. The next kit is the Traveler. This is a kit that is comprised and based on enough necessities to keep a person going through good and bad times both for 3 days. One person for 3 days. This kit here, it's got a really nice zip-up soft case that it stores in with a shoulder carrying strap, hand strap type deal. It comes with a duct tape, emergency blanket. The Wallace Guidebook is included in this kit. a flashlight with batteries, food rations, tissue packs, utility bags, water rations, adhesive bandages, tape, alcohol wipes, aspirin, first aid cream, towelettes, razor blades. You can see there's over 50 items in this kit. This is an excellent kit to put in the trunk of a car. You don't have to worry about it because the lowest shelf life item in here is the food and water, and that's 5 years. So you can see you don't need to check it all the time to see if it's still okay or popped open. Excellent kit. Throw in your truck, your car, throw in a closet just to have, or if you travel around quite a bit. The Traveler kit is $37.95. I repeat, it's called the Traveler, and it's $37.95. Next item is the Ark 3, it's called, as in Noah's Ark 3. The Ark 3. This is a basic kit, quite often given as gifts at corporations, thank you awards, ads, sales gifts for people, to schools. A lot of schools give these, especially like out in California. I've seen it firsthand. They give these to students because of, if you live in the right area, you may have fires and earthquakes and riots and whatever else quite often. So this is a really neat kit. It's one person, 3 days. Does not include items like the Traveler has, more oriented towards being out on the roadways, but it includes food, blanket, water. It's a really nice kit, packaged in a real durable box, shrink wrapped, essentially waterproof. It's really amazing. You leave these out in the rain. I've seen it. Someone left one accidentally out in the rain. That someone was me, and it was still pretty good. There was nothing damaged inside. My box is just a little warped. This Ark 3 is $13.37. It's really nice. It's a really nice package. $13.37 for the Ark 3. And the last item for tonight is called the Super Ark. Essentially, this is a combination of pieces from the Traveler kit and the Ark, all combined on one box set with instructions. It has first aid supplies, food ration, matches, warmth, as far as blanket, candle. You've got chemical light sticks for light, drinking water, a whole lot of stuff in this kit. This is an excellent kit. It's an upgrade from the Ark 3. This is the Super Ark. It is $19.95. I repeat, this is the Super Ark. I know the two names are really close, but you can tell by the difference in price why there's a lot more items. $19.95 for the Super Ark. It's one person for 3 days. It's got over 30 items in it. Okay, if you have any questions about shipping on these items, remember, the shortwave antenna kit, it's postage paid $24.95, sent priority mail. All other items, please call so we can work out the lowest possible shipping cost with you to your exact area. And you will call 520-333-4578 during decent hours of the day, please. And to write to order any of these items, it is Hour of the Time, care of 101.1 FM, P.O. Box 940, Eagar, E-A-G-A-R, Arizona, 85925.
Oh, boy. You did a good job there. That was great.
Thank you.
Okay, let's get 101 back on the air. If you want to get that down there. Okay, folks. We got about 50 more minutes left in the broadcast, about 5 more minutes before we have to turn the tape over for the last time. And we're going to open the phones right now. The number is 520-333-4578 if you'd like to call in and talk about anything. I don't care what it is. We're going to try from time to time to let you be a part of the broadcast and, well, you know, say what you want to say or ask what you want to ask or do what you want to do or whatever. Now, I'm not certain how this is... oh, there we go. Now I know. Good evening. You're on the air.
Hi, Bill. Rick Martin. How are you?
Hi, Rick. How are you?
Sitting here with Barbara.
Oh, hi, Barbara.
She's right here. Just really glad you're back up. Your signal's great. You sound great, and we're just really, really pleased to hear you again.
Well, thank you, Rick. How's Barbara doing, by the way?
She's doing fine. We've had a few little surgical things, but overall things are doing pretty well, and we're hanging in there.
Barbara, I want you to know there's been a lot of prayers said here for you.
Hey, we really appreciate and for your family.
Well, thank you.
I want to bring you up to date on the seal and the Stowe City seal adventure here shortly, and then I'll get out of the way for others.
Okay.
We're on our third federal judge, Bill.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, this thing has been moved, transferred to. We're into the third judge now, and it's quite an adventure. We've really poked at some pretty soft areas in stirring this up, and I'll tell you, we're just keeping the heat on. And we had a decision at the Ohio level, at the court there, that allowed that with God all things are possible to stand, and that's of course been appealed immediately by the ACLU. So we're still warring up here, but I'll tell you, we just keep praying and keep pushing.
Well, that's wonderful. You know the origins of the ACLU, don't you?
I believe it's Walter Baldwin, and originally a communist organization.
Absolutely.
So I think if we can wake up some more people out there, I think that's what it's all about. But yeah, I'll tell you, your signal is so strong. We're just so pleased that you're back out there and spreading the good word.
Well, thank you, sir.
So we'll get out of the way here and let somebody else get in. But hey, it's just really good to hear you, and we keep you in our prayers all the time.
Well, thank you, Rick. We appreciate that.
Okay, take care now.
You too.
Bye.
Tell your family hello.
I will.
Bye-bye.
They're listening. They heard you. Thank you for calling. The number is 520-333-4578 if you'd like to call. Now is the time to do it. And we've just got 2 minutes till tape turnover time and about 47 minutes until the end of the broadcast. And, of course, we cut it off a little bit before the end. Good evening. You're on the air.
Well, hi, Bill. Glad to hear you back on the air. I used to listen to you on WWCR, then you went away. I kind of thought you got lost in the ether someplace.
Who am I talking to?
Randy and Torrance.
Hi, Randy. No, we didn't disappear, and we've never been off the air, not ever. We've always been on the air somewhere.
Yeah, well, I didn't know where you were in shortwave until tonight on WCDQ.
WBCQ.
WBCQ.
Yeah, that's Worldwide Bill Cooper Quorum. I could see Alan jumping up out of his chair over that one. I think it was nice of him to put Bill Cooper in the middle of WBCQ.
Well, I'm glad to hear you back on. Actually, when I found out what the station was, that the local public radio station has a program called The Show, and they were on Sunday morning.
You really need to talk a lot louder.
The Show was on the air on KCRW out here in Santa Monica, and he happened to mention he was on shortwave on 7415 or whatever it was, which happens to be WBCQ's frequency.
Yes.
So I thought I discovered the station.
Well, good. I'm glad you found us again.
Yeah, well, it's been several years. But anyway, what I'll talk about is, have you been, do you ever get up with Sherman Skolnick's hotline in Chicago?
Are you kidding? This is the guy who said Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, and Goofy went into the White House, murdered Vince Foster, and carried him out and dumped him in the park. Are you nuts?
Well, I wouldn't know that. Sometimes I'll call him up and listen to his tape. Sometimes he says interesting things, and sometimes he says some outrageous stuff.
Well, I think that's on purpose. I think he intentionally discredits himself to discredit everybody. Well, and every once in a while he does something really good, but he mixes it all up with all this other Looney Tunes stuff. How are you supposed to know?
That's true. The reason I was trying to get to the bottom of one of his assertions was that Rockefeller wanted to be vice president after Clinton and everything.
You got to talk louder, really. If you don't talk, loud into that phone, nobody's going to hear you.
I see. Well, anyway, I'll let some other callers come on. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thanks for calling. When I tell you that, folks, I'm not trying to insult you or make you mad or anything like that. It's just when you call in to this show, you've got to keep your level up so that the listening audience can hear you. See, I can hear you really well on my earphones if you're, a few octaves below me or Doyle, but the listening audience is going to have a hard time hearing you. So please put the phone right in front of your mouth and talk forcefully so that you come through really good. we don't have all the fancy equipment that a lot of radio stations have. What you're talking through when you get through to us is a speakerphone in front of the microphone. So that, and it works really well. And it's, we don't have to pay $2,000 for one of those phone thingy-majigs or whatever they call it. 520-333-4578 is the number. And it's time to do I'm going to turn this tape over right now. You'll have one. The tape has been turned over, and we're back on line. 520-333-4578 is the number. By the way, folks, if you want to know a good book to get on a lot of the subjects that we were covering tonight, here's one right here. I don't know where you can find it. I really don't. What?
We're working on that already.
Oh, we're working on it? Okay, well, maybe we'll be able to. I didn't know that. I had no idea. But it's called A Factual Guide to the Constitution for the United States of America. And Doyle says he's working on getting it so we can offer it to our listeners. It's a fantastic book. I got to tell you. You need it. Good evening. You're on the air.
Oh, hi, Mr. Cooper. This is Vince in Chicago.
Hi, Vince.
I've heard a lot about you in the past year or so, just listening around on the radio and the shortwave and whatnot. And you're a pretty interesting guy. And I just wanted to let you know that a while back I was on the Art Bell program. And I asked Art Bell if he would have you on as a guest.
Oh, that was you.
We heard it.
We were listening that night.
Yeah, and it caused quite a ruckus, and I guess he won't have you on the air and whatnot. And I was just wondering what you think about that. How come he doesn't, he has everybody as a guest on his program, but he won't have you?
Well, because we pegged him for the bullshit artist that he really is. That's right. Yeah.
I was wondering what you thought about Art Bell, if you might have any feelings you might want to share with...
Well, we put it all on our webpage. If you go to the webpage, and especially if you've been listening to this broadcast and you've heard our expose of the mystery schools and their subversion of the Constitution in this country.
No, you know what, Mr. Cooper? Last night was the first time I've ever heard you.
Oh, wow. Well,
I'm a new listener, and I'm keenly interested in what you have to say.
Excellent. Well, we're keenly interested in new listeners.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with the program, and I'll be listening.
Okay, thank you. And by the way, if any of you want to go to our website and check out the Art B.S. Bell page, our website is harvest-trust.org. That's harvest-trust.org. You don't need www. All you need is http://harvest-trust.org. Good evening. You're on the air.
Hey, Bill. This is Jim Taylor over in Kentucky.
Hi, Jim. How are you?
Fine. You doing okay?
Yeah, doing pretty good.
I'm glad to hear you're back on the air. You're coming in loud and clear tonight.
Well, that's great. Well, thank Alan Weiner and all the good people who built and financed and run WBCQ.
Well, yeah, I kind of like your format. You're giving us what we need, the basic documents that people have forgotten.
Well, I hope I am, but don't trust me. You got to go and find all these things, and you got to.
Most of them, so you're on the right track.
Good.
I had a question on this. I'm not being nitpicky, but originally we had a government set up as 3 separate departments.
Not anymore. They're all in the executive branch, all of them.
And branches that would indicate something other than departments.
Yes.
Tricky wording. Patrick Henry and I think James Mason and those guys, they predicted exactly what Jefferson and those fellows warned us about.
Oh, yeah.
They were against the Constitution, the anti-federalists.
Yes.
Some of the, the Bill of Rights was put in there because of Patrick Henry's persistence.
Well, what they understood was that any government can be subverted if the people drop their vigilance and become ignorant and allow it to happen. And that's exactly what has happened in this country.
Is this sort of an open forum?
Oh, yeah.
I wondered if you would comment on Bill of Rights, maybe. I'll hang up a minute.
Oh, we meant to talk about that, and I was going to do it at the beginning of the broadcast. I'm glad you brought it up because I forgot all about it. Thank you for calling. Apparently Bogreitz was found wounded And the only thing that we could get from the sheriff's department was that it was a self-inflicted wound, and the hospital tells us that he's in stable condition, but that's all anybody will tell anybody. Now, we know that he's been having some marital problems and some legal problems and who knows what other problems, because I don't know what goes on in his private personal life, and he's the only one who knows that. But I know his wife left him and has filed for divorce, and he was pretty despondent over that, and in fact, I guess had applied for to be admitted into a mental care facility. Now, I'm not telling you that he tried to commit suicide, because I don't know that. He may have had an accident. All I know is if Bo Greitz wanted to kill himself, he would have done it. So I think, and this is just my guess, is that it may be an accident. Good evening, you're on the air.
Good evening, Mr. Cooper. My name is Art Brogan. I'm calling from Litchfield County, Connecticut.
Hi, Art. How are you?
Fine, thank you, sir. Very nice to have you back on the air again. I'm tickled pink.
Oh, good.
It's such a thing as turning pink, you know. The only problem I'm having is I talked to 20 other of my friends in the area who are all now want to listen to your show all the time. And we're having the same problem the last 2 nights. From your first hour, which is comes in crystal clear, and then as soon as 10 o'clock comes on the button, bingo. It's almost like in the old days when they used to jam you all the time.
Well, it could be propagation, or you might have somebody locally trying to jam us. What you need,
that I wouldn't doubt.
Well, what you need is to get the antenna we're offering. If you put that up according to directions, even if they try to jam you, you're still going to get this station.
It's
just
I'm going to order that tomorrow and show my friends, because I told them that's the only way around it.
Yeah, it is.
And Connecticut's a funny place. You've been jammed before here.
Oh, yeah.
Over and over and over.
Yeah, well, you know how to stop. If it's local jamming, you get several of your ham buddies who have RDF, radio direction finders.
They're going to triangulate the thing.
Yeah, you triangulate it, you knock on the guy's door, let him know what's what, and it won't happen anymore.
Yeah, because they don't want to hear it from the FCC or anybody else that they're doing that.
Yeah, well, I guarantee you, if I knocked on his door, he wouldn't want to hear it from me either.
I don't want to hear it. How's everything going otherwise?
Well, real well.
And the children are fine, I guess?
Children are wonderful. I guess.
I heard them on the air last night. I had a little tear in my eye.
Well, they were on the air tonight, too.
Yes, I heard them earlier.
In fact, we may bring them in here before the broadcast's over and let them get on the air again. They love it, you know.
My wife's been commented, boy, the little one's all grown up now.
Well, she's 3 years old. She's not quite grown up. And we had a hell of a time getting her to eat her beans tonight. You know?
I heard that. And the thing I love is that at 3 years old, when I hear them, your child talk, and your first child when she was 3, I says, what a difference between their speech pattern at 3 years old and what I hear around town.
Well, that's because we teach them. Our children will never see the inside of a public school in their life. Never.
Neither of my grandchildren.
My oldest daughter, Dorothy, Pooh, who you all know as Pooh, reads better right now than most adults who have attended college.
I would say so. Mm-hmm. Most adults I know that are just getting out of college, so-called adults, can't read the diploma.
Doesn't surprise me, because most of them that go to college and get their diploma, haven't really stepped foot on the campus. They have somebody sit in the class for them, and they pay for the papers, and of course not everybody does that. Not even most people do that. I'm just, we're bantering here, but some people do.
Mm-hmm. Some do, yes. Anyways, I'm going to order the antenna, and then I'll hook it up. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if I can find. And if that works, fine by me. I'm a happy camper then.
Okay.
I thank you for your time.
Yeah. One of the things, sir, is listening to the frequency late at night on the night owl. Other people in your area have mentioned the same thing. A lot of it is just propagation. I would still triangulate, with the ham radio operators.
I have 4 friends that are in different parts of the area.
Yeah.
Like 4 corners.
Yeah,
They're going to, over the next few nights, see if they can't figure out where it's coming from.
Yeah, so it's just the time of night back there right now.
But we can do it,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, thank you for your time, Bill. Good luck to you now.
Thank you for calling.
Bye-bye.
520-333-4578 is the number. Good evening. You're on the air.
Hi, Bill.
Jack Francis from Chicago. How you doing?
Hi, Jack. Doing fine.
I just want to let you know, right now I'm up in Appleton, Wisconsin, and your signal's coming in clear as a bell.
Well, that's great.
And I want to compliment you on your job on the website. It's been a while since I've seen you. It was summer of '97.
You know, you can actually spend weeks on our website and never see and go to all the links and study and read everything.
Well, I tell you, I spent a lot of time tracing it down and going from link to link, and I'll tell you, I've never seen so much information available at one source point, you know.
Oh, no, you won't. And, you know, we're getting over 600,000 hits a month now.
I believe it, because sometimes it's real hard to get a response. Have a day. But I'm glad to hear you're coming in good and clear all over the place.
Oh, yes, we are. And even in many foreign countries. We've heard from a lot of foreign countries, and they're getting us loud and clear.
Yeah, I've got a little Grundig radio that rarely could pick you up when you were on WWCR. Well, you just blasted in up here, and if I can get you on this, they can get you everywhere.
Well, you know, during the times that we're on, nobody's listening to WWCR or any other radio station for that matter. They're all listening to the hour of the time, just like they used to.
Well, I'll tell you, keep up the good work, and I see that you're really moving along. And it was good to hear Rick Martin on there, too.
Rick's hard to get a hold of if you've ever tried to get a hold of him. So
It's impossible.
Yeah, I know.
But maybe I'll give him an email sometime when I get his address.
Okay.
Well, good luck to you, Bill. I'll be listening.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks.
Yeah, Rick's giving hell over that seal. I love it. 520-333-4578, and the line is now open. Good evening. You're on the air.
Hi, Bill. This is Wells. I'm in New Jersey, a little bit west of the Statue of Liberty.
Oh.
And the signal was really strong in the beginning, and around about 10:30, ever since WBCQ has been on the air, in fact, not just your program, but
That's just...
10:30 it starts to fade, and it depends on different days. Sometimes you can barely hear it, and sometimes you can't hardly at all.
Yeah.
And got an excellent antenna. I am a radio operator, so it's not the antenna problem.
No, you know...
Definitely propagation, but there's no interference, which is also nice. So no matter how weak it gets, you can still pick stuff out.
Yeah, well, let me tell you what's really happening. See, the transmitters in Maine...
Yeah, we're too close.
You're too close, and it's skipping right over you. But if you get this antenna kit or any long wire kit, you don't have to get ours. We're just making this available for people who want it. Get a long wire antenna kit and either put it out as a long wire or put it out around the eaves, either inside or outside your house with the insulators, or you can do it as a dipole anywhere.
Yeah, that's good.
You'll get it.
Different long wires. Out here, it's just a matter of skipping over. But maybe conditions will change as we get into different seasons of the year. So.
If you get a good antenna, even though you're close and it's skipping, you'll get the transmission because it's a very powerful station.
It certainly is. Good night.
Good night. And, when I tell you get a long wire antenna, you don't have to purchase ours, folks. You can make your own if you want to. We've just done this for people who don't know how or don't want to or would like to have the benefit of instructions and a kit and everything all there ready for you. We did this. And it's the exact same one, by the way, that it's the same thing that other people offer for anywhere from $30 on up to $46. In fact, Ramsey's is $46 for the same thing. Mm-hmm. Good evening. You're on the air. Hello.
This is Robert in Colorado.
Hi, Robert. How are you?
Been following you for years, ever since you were in Denver many years ago.
I better not turn around real quick then, huh?
I think you'll do all right. First say that I'm glad you're back.
Well, thank you.
Second thing, it wasn't clear here when you gave your address of box 10 something.
You mean for the hour of the time?
Yes.
It's hour of the time.
I got all that. I just don't have that.
Well, wait a minute. I'm going to give it to you. The hour of the time in care of 101.1 FM.
FM?
Yes, FM, as in FM radio.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, I had that, but it didn't seem right. Okay.
Trust me. P.O. Box 940.
Got all the rest.
Okay, good.
85925.
You got it.
Hope you get on for a good long time.
Well, we will, as long as the listeners support the program. The airtime is expensive, and 3 hours is something that is going to be hard to pay for. So,
well,
if
I appreciate the kind of things that you get into. I'm a retired school teacher. I wouldn't send my kids to school either.
Well, good for you. And thank you for being able to admit that you're a school teacher and say that in the same breath.
Oh, that's easy to say for me.
Well, good.
Thanks a lot.
I said good. It's not good. I wish it were just the opposite of what it is.
Well, I understand very clearly.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
520-333-4578 is the number. That's 520-333-4578, and the line is no longer open. Good evening. You're on the air.
Hey, Bill. How you doing?
I need you to put your mouth in front of that phone and talk a lot louder.
Yeah, also, I need to get out the presence of that radio. Hey, buddy, I joined your web ring, the Let Freedom Ring web ring.
Uh-huh.
I talked to you one time on Alan Hamilton's show years ago, like this, back in 92.
Yep, you need to talk a lot louder. I can barely hear you. I know the audience can probably not even hear you.
All right, I'm going to pick up a hardline phone.
Yeah, please don't call on those roam phones. It doesn't ever work.
That's a good Motorola. Nobody's ever noticed it was portable.
Oh,
Sorry.
now we can hear you.
Okay, great. Glad that made a difference.
Yeah, it made a big difference.
Hey, look, Bill, I know a lot of people are congratulating you for being on. A friend of mine who's called you quite a bit here from Columbus, Georgia, he told me about it today.
Uh-huh.
Just got done searching through the frequencies and found you.
Well, good.
So you're coming in 5x5 here.
Well, that's wonderful. Yeah, we are in most places. It's just little pockets where people have difficulties, and I don't. One of the reasons is the people who have the worst trouble are the closest to the shortwave station. Shortwave has a peculiarity to it in that, in most stations, the closer you are to the station, the better you can receive it. With shortwave, it's just the opposite. The closer you are to the station, the more difficult it is to receive it.
Right, I understand, because it has a signal bounce. And
yeah, it bounces off the ionosphere, and it'll just go right over you.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are in the bounce area, and they miss it.
Right.
Hey, look, I want to talk to you a little bit about Art Bell.
Sure.
There's a peculiar bird, if you ever saw one.
Oh, yeah. Have you visited our page on the website?
Well, I'm a member of the Let Freedom Ring. However, my dad's died recently, and I've been really swamped with a lot of things. I have to do his work, too, now.
Uh-huh.
But I need to get back to working on my page and, because I was able to get it, there's only like 39 or 40 sites in the Let Freedom Ring web ring.
Uh-huh.
And I got in with no problem, but I haven't been able to work on my page since then. And, we have a lot of like interests in many different things. And I've given out your book, and it's on loan quite a bit. I've got 2 of them, and they're both on loan.
Well, you're lucky you get them back. Most people loan out my book. They never see it again.
Believe it or not, the Books A Million, which is a very large bookstore here in Columbus, Georgia, they carry your book right there on the shelf. Anybody can walk in and get it. It's prominently placed.
Well, it's carried all over the country. It's the number 1 best-selling book without any advertising or any mention by any of the establishment press or anything.
Yeah, I'm proud to show it to people. There's a lot of cool things in it. When I woke up, I have to say to you on the Alan Hanneman show, right about, Oklahoma City bombing, April. It must have been the beginning of May of 95. I heard you, and so much happened right at that time that really got me started, got me awake. I befriended Stan Deo, and I know he helped you some on his book. And, I had a lot of good head starts on, waking me up, and it happened real quick. And, you were predicting the Atlanta Centennial Park bombing. I predicted the night, the time frame, and everything, and the LCI came to see me, and the Lord sent me 2 Christian LCI men.
Well, good for you.
They told me the next thing on the calendar of God was, that basically, let me just suffice it to say that they were both 2 Christians, and I was really impressed. When you do the things the Lord's way, He'll take care of you.
Yes.
I want to talk to you about Art Bell. I named this first book. I sent it in by fax, The Art of Talk.
Uh-huh.
He seems to be a puppet, and I know he doesn't understand what he's doing, Bill, but he's just getting rich off the deal.
Oh, I wouldn't say that he doesn't understand what he's doing. He understands exactly what he's doing.
He's a player, don't you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. He's a member of the Mysteries. He's a Marxist socialist. If you read his book, The Quickening, it is the most unashamed promotion of one world totalitarian socialist government that I have ever seen.
Well, that's strong words, Bill.
Oh, yes.
All that's out there with the work of so many people that's on his show. You know, it seems like you go down the New Age best-selling book list.
No, he's going down the baffle you with bullshit list. That's what he does every night. He puts on Looney Tune, wackos, escaped mental patients, crazies, all of this kind of stuff. You sit there, listen to him playing tapes of voices from hell through a well dug in Siberia, which never happened. And they're not voices from hell. He plays this thing over and over again. One night he was sitting there talking to time travelers from the year 2012, and he's got people chasing rainbows, Bigfoots, extraterrestrials, aliens, cities on Mars, and you know, while they're engaged in all of this, baffle me with incredulous crap stuff, they are no threat to the destruction of this country and the bringing about of the New World Order.
Well, just about everybody that he has on his show is the who's who list of the occult.
Sean David Morton is one of the biggest frauds I've ever known in my life. He first called me back in 1989 on the telephone when I lived in Camp Verde, and he told me that he was the son of Satan.
Thanks for telling me that.
Yeah, that's what he told me.
That's very important because me and the Sandeo have a big joke about calling him Sean David Mortician. He's the son of the dead.
He's a total fraud.
That comes right in handy. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome.
Just wanted to touch base with you on that, and I'll check your site in just a few minutes, and
okay.
I'll send you an email and let you know what I think, because I've been talking to Art for going on since 1995 quite a bit, hot and heavy, and I've made him confess that the book was written by God, the Bible, I mean. He confessed it one night on his show. I said, wouldn't it be great, Art, if the creators had left us with an owner's manual for life here on this planet? And it was the night he had Lam Lampiron, that guy that found, not that guy, but that Rio D'Angelo, the last surviving member of the Heaven's Gate, the dude that went up there and found those people, Rancho Santa Fe.
Yeah, I know who.
So I said, wouldn't it be great if the Creator had left us a handbook for life here on this earth? And he said he did, sir. It's called the Bible. You know, so every now and then he says some really profound things.
Yeah, but 2 nights later, he ridicules the Bible and anybody who holds any religious views whatsoever. We believe that anybody should have the freedom to worship whatever altar that they wish, or no altar if they wish. You know, that's what this country is all about.
And in a way, that's not God's way. He wishes that everyone would do it His way, and He says, learn not the way of the heathen. And in this country, we give the heathen equal rights, and you know that's the truth, and that's the shame of it, Bill. We empower the heathen.
Well, let me put it a way that you might be able to understand it a little better. If, in fact, man does not have free will, and if we are not here to make our own free will choice, no matter who likes it or who doesn't like it, then religion is nothing but a joke. Do you understand that?
It depends on what kind of God you're dealing with. We of course, know God to be merciful.
No. You are expressing your viewpoint. Don't say we.
Yeah, but we know it's the truth, though, Bill.
No. We don't know that. You may know that.
You know it too.
I know what my religious beliefs are, but I don't put my religious beliefs on anybody else. It's up to them to make their own choice, and they have to answer to God if God exists, and they don't have to answer if there isn't any God.
You claim to be a Christian, correct?
I don't claim it. I am.
Okay, right. I see you say in your book, right away, Jesus is your Savior.
Yes.
Would you ever try to lead someone to Christ, say a black person, just out of curiosity?
No, not unless they came to me and asked me for me to tell them what my religion is or explain it to them. I would never force myself or my religion on anyone. Jesus didn't do it. Jesus stood on the side of the road and preached to those who stopped to listen, and those who would walk by, he let them go. He didn't follow them. He didn't harangue them. He didn't bug them. He didn't call them names. He didn't tell them they were going to hell or anything else. He spoke to those who stopped to listen, and that's what I did.
Okay, well, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate all you've done, and it's an honor and a pleasure to speak with you, sir, and I want you to keep up the good work, and may the Lord keep you and your family safe.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate your call.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
520. Yes, dear. Oh, can you wait for 20 more minutes until we finish with the broadcast? And then I'll get you guys a piece of candy. You want to stay here with us? She's shaking her head no. Good evening. You're on the air.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the first time I've heard you since you dropped off WWCR. Actually, I caught you on 99.55 through the Cuban jamming down there a couple of times.
Uh-huh.
And I just wanted to thank you for everything you did. We got a lot of organization going up here and calling from Pennsylvania.
Good.
And
yeah, for a while I was educating Castro.
well, it's really weird that he would jam you because you're doing just the thing he's trying to do. Get rid of these idiots and that are in there.
Are you kidding? He's a screaming communist, and I'm everything against that.
I know, but I mean he's against the same people that are in there, trying to get rid of them. Same way you are in a sense. I'm not saying the same way, but definitely there's a difference. But
there's absolutely a difference, a big difference.
It seems that I'm saying it seems that he would let you continue your station, and instead of jamming it, you know what I mean?
Well, I don't understand that because my goal is to restore constitutional Republican government, which is a big threat to Castro and his Cuban communist thing.
Well, it seems like there's some people in our government that are opposed to him also that he's trying to jam out.
Well, sure, but they're also opposed to us.
Yeah.
They're opposed to freedom.
I know. It's really crazy. We're caught between the hammer and anvil here.
Yeah, that's the truth.
But, well, any way we can get rid of them, it's okay with me,
Yeah, see, when you're caught between the hammer and the anvil, you know what our job is to become? A huge block of hard rubber. When that hammer comes down and hits that hard rubber, it'll bounce halfway around the world.
Hopefully. And, there's enough people out there now that are aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
And,
well, try that sometime. Take a big piece of hard rubber, real hard rubber, and put it on an anvil. Hold a hammer with both hands, a big sledgehammer, and then come down from overhead and hit it as hard as you can and see if it doesn't knock your head off.
Exactly what I'll do. Well, thanks again. Good hearing you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you for calling. 520-333-4578 is the number. Good evening. You're on the air.
Hey, Bill. This is John and Irene from Texas.
Hi, John. How are you? Hi, Irene.
Hey, Irene sends her love.
Where is she? Is she listening?
I'm sorry?
Is she listening?
Probably she's in the other room. She can't hear the shortwave very well, but you're pegging the needle here in Texas.
Well, you give Irene a big hug and you tell her that I love her. We all love her.
I will.
And we miss her, and we miss you.
I was hoping to hear you back on, and glad that you're back on a strong signal now, and that y'all doing all right there.
Well, thank you, John. Poot, you remember John and Irene?
Yeah.
You want to say hello? Come and say hello.
Hi, John. Hi, Irene.
Hi, Pooh.
How are you guys doing?
We're doing fine.
That's good.
Say hi.
Hi.
You taking care of Allison?
Yeah.
That's better. You better.
This is Allison. Say hi, John.
Hi, Ben.
Hi. How are you? I remember you when you were just starting to walk.
Yeah. That's when things really got interesting.
Yeah, she's running.
Now she is running, yeah.
Okay, I'll let somebody else get in.
Okay, John, thank you for calling.
You bet.
Thanks, John.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
520-333-4578 is the number. The number. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yeah. As soon as the show is over. Good evening, you're on the air.
Bill, it's the first time I heard you. I got a shortwave radio.
Yeah.
It's Sanjin ATS 909.
That's a good radio.
Yeah, it's great radio. I love it. And it's the first time I ever heard you on the air, and you really sound great. And I wanted to say something about Art Bell.
Sure.
First of all, he's in business to make money, just like everybody else. I'm not sticking up for him. I've heard a lot of good and bad in him.
It's okay to stick up for him. We're not against you sticking up for him.
He's he's only trying to look at both sides of the coin, but it's hard to figure out what he's really up to. Now, I heard him interview, Father Malachi Martin from the Vatican, King Zahi Hawass from Egypt. I mean, he does have a lot of listeners, and there are some interesting topics of discussion he has, but he throws in the fruitcakes, and it gets me upset, and I got to shut it off. Matter of fact, I called him a few times. We laughed about a lot of stuff. I'm disabled. I want to get out of New York State. And, I don't know, I've enjoyed them because I've had a sleep disorder for 5 years. There's a lot of people who got that in New York State, But anyways, I'm enjoying your program. I'm going to be listening to 7.415 more often during the evening out here in Buffalo.
Well, good. Not just to this show. There's some other great programs on here. I listen to RNI.
What is it?
RNI, Radio New York International. On Sunday nights.
I'll have to look that one up.
Oh, you'll enjoy it. Johnny Lightning and the crew. It's just a fun show. It's not serious like some of the stuff that we do. Unless Johnny gets on a horse and starts to ride it.
I also studied prophecy all my life. All the things that people swept in the corner, I really studied the most in my life. So, most times in life you'll find out that people don't want to know the truth. They really don't want to know.
Well, I can tell you that's an absolute fact. They don't want to know the truth. It disturbs their life. It makes them responsible, and they don't want to be responsible.
And the people that don't want to know the truth, they're not real people. They're plastic people. They don't stand for authenticity in America.
Well, they don't stand for anything.
We need guys like you that are going to get out on the radio and tell it like it is.
Well, I've been doing it for years, and I'm not going to stop until
I really appreciate your program. I'll be listening to you more.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for calling.
Take care.
Whatever is ailing you, I hope it gets better. 520-333-4578. Good evening. You're on the air.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Cooper. This is Joseph Cutler in Columbus, Georgia.
Well, hello, Joseph.
Hello. I'm concerned about New York City in the future for October this year. Many of my friends are concerned that there may be a major terrorist event around the Wall Street or the United Nations district that may be on a grand scale. Are you concerned about this?
I don't know what you mean by concern. I've been concerned about people hurting other people for many years. I'm concerned about freedom. I'm concerned about a lot of things. There's going to be terrorist attacks in this country until they succeed in disarming the whole world, and then they'll stop.
Very good. Thank you for your advice.
You're welcome. That's what it's all about, folks. It's to create terror so that the people scream out to disarm everybody so that we can all be enslaved. And if you track down who's funding and supplying all these terrorists, you'll find out who the real terrorists are. And most of them live in London and Washington, D.C., and in the state of Israel. Good evening. You're on the air.
Yeah, this is Jim here in Virginia.
Yes?
I just happen to have a small little short wave that was a Grundig Travel 2 that I picked up. But the reason I called, first time I ever heard the shortwave radio station, and I heard you mention a book that you wrote, and I'd like to get the name of that and take a look at it.
When did you hear me mention that?
I guess a few callers back, somebody had mentioned that
Oh, okay. Yeah.
book
Behold,
written that was in Book a Million or something.
Behold a Pale Horse.
What's it called again?
Behold a Pale Horse.
Behold a Pale Horse.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much. Like I said, I've never heard shortwave before, but your show is quite interesting. I'd like to. It's good to have people like you on. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, now.
But remember, don't just believe what you hear me say. My admonition is you better check it out. Not just what I say, but what everybody says. That's the only way you're going to know what's the truth and what's not. And if you find me make a mistake, please let me know and prove it to me so that I can correct it. I really would appreciate that. 520-333-4578. Good evening. You're on the air.
Yes, Bill, do you still stand by your Veritas prediction that was made regarding Clinton and drug use in the White House?
Yes, absolutely.
Is that how far down the road do you see that coming down the pike? Prognosticating.
Well, I don't know if they're ever going to release it to the public or not. Who knows what they're going to do.
Well,
that 450 pages of STARS report that they released is not all of it. There was another 50 or so pages that they kept secret. There's also 2,800 pages of evidence that has nothing to do with Monica Lewinsky that they have not made public. Starr has said that he has not finished with the Whitewater investigation and a lot of other things that he hasn't even submitted a report to the Congress for.
What was the exact phrasing of that?
Of what?
Of the Veritas, when you had made a quote regarding that prediction?
It wasn't a prediction. That wasn't a prediction. That was a report that our sources in Washington, D.C. informed us that Starr was in possession of evidence that there had been drug use in the White House. That was a report, not a prediction.
Oh, gotcha.
It was a news report.
Yeah.
I wonder what you kept saying, prediction. I was scratching my head trying to figure, what's he talking about?
Prognostication or whatever it might be, but it's just usually you're right on with such things.
I am right on with it. You better bet your boots I'm right on with it. And that's one of the reasons why Clinton would never release any information regarding his medical records or his past illnesses, because he has a chronic cocaine habit.
Just one other thing.
Now, if he was a normal guy walking around working in California, I wouldn't care. I don't care. But this guy has a finger that can push buttons that can cause millions of people to die.
Not the truth. Also, researching executive orders, where do these people pull these numbers out of hats, and how the heck did they get them?
Where do who pull numbers out of hats? You talking about the government or what?
I mean, like you tune into like a Bob Grant or even a Rush Limbaugh now and then report some executive order number and is reading copy, and where do these people get this kind of thing?
You can get it too. Anything that's published by the government, if it's not classified as under the National Security Act, you can get it too.
I know, but how do you know what to ask for?
You ask for the executive order number, whatever the number is.
How do you know what number represents?
You just said you heard him read it on the air.
Well, my point is, how does someone like him come to know what the number represents?
Same way I do. When they write an executive order, they publish it. And I get it.
Where is it published?
It's published in the Federal Register. It's published sometimes in the Congressional Record when it's submitted to Congress for approval. It's published by the White House. In fact, if you're online, you can go directly to the White House and get it right off the Internet. You can go to any federal depository library and get every executive order that's ever been written that's not classified. And you can get it from the United States Government Printing Office. What country do you live in? I mean, how come you don't know these things that every citizen is supposed to know? Now, I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm really interested. How do people get lost like that?
Well, because when they covered research in library class, they took it to the card catalog, and that was about the extent of it.
Oh, okay. Well, I understand that.
Yeah, that's quite unfortunate. Maybe you could do a show on just good hardcore research, how to go about it.
Well, we've done that in the past. Maybe we should do that again.
Yeah, just a step-by-step, just a real methodical approach, and maybe even how to weed the nonsense out. That's the other thing.
No, that's a little more difficult.
I know it is.
You need to have a background in research and digging this stuff out before, you know.
Some of this Patriot fact stuff, it's scary.
90% of it is absolute crap. It's a lie. It's fake. It's false. It keeps people turning around in circles chasing their own tail.
Well, how about you get me started? What's the scariest executive order you could have me look up?
I can't come up with anything. Look at the FEMA. Anything concerning FEMA. That'll scare you. If that doesn't scare you, nothing will. We got to go. We're out of time.
Okay. I love the show.
Thanks for calling.
Bye.
Well, folks, we got to go. Girls, you want to come say goodnight? Uh-oh. The little one's asleep. Say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, folks. And Allison, in her dreams, I'm sure, is saying good night also. And God bless each and every single one of you, without exceptions. You've been listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm William Cooper, the man William Jefferson Clinton named in a White House memo as the most dangerous radio host in America. And if you listen to this broadcast every night, you'll find out why. The truth is the most dangerous weapon you can wield against a lie. It will bring down treason.